Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Workshop. It is September 29th, 2022. Call this workshop to order. I will have the prayer next Thursday. The Pledge of Allegiance will be by Girl Scout Troop 540. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes from the September 6th, 2022 regular meeting. We will have some presentations and then departmental reports. Then moving on to old business, second reading, ordinance 2022-20, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 Senior Citizens Fund budget. This is second reading. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, moving on to second reading, ordinance 2022-21, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 general fund budget. Again, this is second reading. This is for some Parks and Rec trucks, some LED lights, license plate reader, those sort of items. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, second reading ordinance 2022-22, an ordinance to amend Title 20, Chapter 1 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding alarm systems. And again, this is second reading. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to the consent agenda. First item under approve city bids and purchases. Bid Stones River Road at CSX Railway Road Improvement Project. This is, of course, to make improvements to the railroad crossing at Stones River Road. So the cost of the bid is $152,770. The city's portion is $5,735.50. TDOT is paying the remainder.
Is this where they're going to back up and do like a little ramp type thing all the way across? Is that what this is about?
It's signage and various road improvements. I do think the approaches on both sides of the railroad are included in that as well. So it's just overall improvements and making it better.
All right.
It's asphalt, road markings, new signs on both sides of the crossings. Any other questions? Moving on to number 2, Upper Chaney Woods Interceptor Sewer, segments 4 and 3. And we will go with Mr. John.
Shoot, I was fixing to get coffee.
So we opened our bids for the Upper Chaney Woods Interceptor Sewer, segments 4 and 3, on September 22nd, 2002. We did receive 3 bids.
I don't think we got no microphones working. Is yours working?
We opened the bids for the Upper Chaney Woods Interceptor Sewer, segments 4 and 3, on September 22nd. We did receive 3 bids. Norris Brothers Excavating, LLC of Crossville, Tennessee, was the lowest bidder with a total bid amount of $5,486,760. The next lowest bidder was with Mofield Brothers Construction Company, LLC, out of Carthage, Tennessee, with the price of $5,896,082. The difference in the total bid amounts of the first and second responsive bidders was $409,376. As with the previous bid, when this is the rebid, and as with the previous one, we checked the references for both contractors. We found that with Norris Brothers, the reviews of them were not very positive. They were negative. And the ones with Mofield Brothers Construction Company were all positive. So based upon that information, we have 2 approaches that the city of Laverne could take. One would be to accept the bid amount from the Norris Brothers Excavating LLC. However, based on the information that we had received, we think that a full-time experienced RPR, or a resident project representative, would be required to be on site to watch over their work closely. And we also think that would be a lot more time required on our part during the construction phase services. The second approach would be to award the project to Mofield Brothers Construction Company, LLC. And although there is a price difference, it is our recommendation that you award this to Mofield Brothers.
Anyone have any questions?
Have you had dealings with them?
I've not had dealings with either one. However, John has vetted out Norris Brothers, and it's kind of the same comments we received the last time. And definitely one of the things also is that suppliers, I think, have a hard time getting paid, and subcontractors, stuff like that too. So with the situation we've got on another project, I think it might be best to go with a second bidder.
Yeah, for lack of better words, babysitting don't sound
It would be costly.
good.
Is the bond company for Mobile Brothers, is that a known entity?
I'm not aware of them. Merchants Bonding Company, Mutual. I've not worked with them.
And just to remind the board, we are to look not only at the lowest bid, but the lowest and best. So,
Yes.
anyone have any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 3, bid Public Works and Community Development Services Facility. We've got one bid with Barron Construction LLC, and the bid came in just under $25 million. For me, I will go ahead and state I would like us to rebid this out. Having one bidder is, for this size project, I would say not the norm. I don't know if both the current state of the economy as well as the ongoing hurricane in Florida may have had something to do with this. So, but this is for the new Public Works facility. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions, but I definitely agree with just one bid. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
It's also interesting they're using round numbers. There's no, all the other bids on other contracts have been added up for the spreadsheet, and this is just a handwritten round number.
Yeah.
So it's I concur.
Moving on to number 4, sole source purchase automated license plate recognition phase 2 expansion. This would authorize the purchase and installation of Raycor automated license plate recognition units that supplement our existing system. So cost is $62,818. It's about $10,000 more than what we, or about $11,000 more than what we budgeted for. So a budget amendment that includes an additional $11,000 in funding for this purchase is on second reading already. Is there any questions about this?
Just one, it says it expires on 9/22.
Talking about the offer?
Yeah. So good? Thank you.
And Chip, these have already been beneficial in our area.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This expansion will, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Alderman, this expansion of this program, my initial goal is to get all the entrances and exit of Laverne covered by LPRs, and this will add to that. This will handle up by the interstate. We'll have the roundabout covered, as well as Old National Highway and Chaney area, that three-way stop there.
Wonderful.
Forward, yeah, so, any questions?
Thank you, sir. Moving on to number 5, state contract purchase radios for patrol vehicles. This is a purchase for 10 Motorola radios, antenna, installation, all the necessary programming. This is $67,682.10. Any questions? And number 6, GSA contract purchase emergency equipment for patrol vehicles. This is for the purchase of emergency vehicle equipment and installation for 10 vehicles. So total is going to be $132,700. Is there any questions? Seeing none, moving on to B, approve First Amendment to the agreement with CareHere LLC / Premise Health. So CareHere is a group that we've been working with for years and years. So this is, they've changed their name. They're now officially Premise Health, and this amendment cleans up some of the language in the agreement after the merger of the companies. Does anyone have any questions? There is no financial impact with this. Moving on to C, approve proposal and master services agreement with Ceridian HCM Incorporated for Human Resource Information System, HRIS. Andrew, do you want to come up here and talk about this, please?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Aldermen, good evening. As you may remember, we had done an RFP earlier this year for HR software suite for the city. We received 3 bids. 2 of those bids were viable software systems that met all of our solutions. And we moved forward. You all approved an agreement to move forward with one of those companies. During the contract phase of that deal, they are an Illinois-based company, and unfortunately they refused to acknowledge Tennessee law, and so between our city attorney and theirs, the contract was not able to be ratified. So we have gone back to our second option, Ceridian, which they can do everything that the first one does as well. And we bring it to you tonight to approve. That contract has already been approved by the city attorney and by Ceridian, and they have acknowledged all of the Tennessee laws that are appropriate to the deal that we needed done. So again, this is back before you, a solution that we are excited to bring to the entire city employee base, and this would be for the new deal with Ceridian.
And this very much moves our whole HR system for onboarding, payroll, timekeeping from a very manual, paper-based system to an electronic one. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Everything from when we post a requisition and someone reaches out and applies, all the way through their lifespan as an employee until they retire. Everything about their experience from timekeeping, time off, payroll, employee relations, any kind of investigative work, annual reviews, it's all digital. And right now, that process is solely manual for each department at the city.
So long past overdue.
I think so. I'm excited about this.
Does anyone have any questions?
So the contract says that 273 employees, so if the city grows, we can add to it? Is
Correct. Yep. It's not limited by headcount. That's just what we're going to start with now. We can add as we need.
Any other questions? Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Moving on to D, approve application for a roadblock to be conducted by Rolling Thunder Tennessee Chapter 1 from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. on Saturday, October 15th, 2022, with a rain date of Saturday, October 22nd at the intersection of Murfreesboro Road and Stones River Road. This is something that occurs regularly here in the city. Rolling Thunder participates in a lot of our different events, and this is just one of the ways that they raise funds to help veterans. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, moving on to E, approve grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security for the Police Traffic Services Highway Safety Project. This is a program that the police department's participated in for several years. It gives the city extra funding to conduct operations that include reduced speeding, aggressive driving, driving under the influence, people not wearing their seatbelts, that sort of thing. So the city will be reimbursed up to $25,000 with this grant. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to F. Approve renewal of maintenance agreement with Motorola Solutions for city radio equipment. And this is just renewing our existing agreement with them, and it's the city radio system for police, fire, and other city departments that are serviced through Motorola. Does anyone have any questions on this? Moving on to G, approve change order number 1 for the water storage tank improvements project. Ms. Jamie.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Aldermen. Hope you all are doing well tonight. This change order is for the 2022 water storage tank improvements project, which includes the additional concrete repairs on the exterior of the Sanford Knob tank on the dome and the sidewall. When they were pressure washing and preparing it for the coating, they found some areas that needed to have some repairs and some weakened concrete removed and replaced. It also includes a cost if you all wish to pressure wash the steel tank that sits beside the concrete tank at Sanders Drive. The Sanders Drive concrete tank was coated on this project. The steel tank was last painted in 2015. There's a little bit of mildew and kind of environmental deposits on there, so they've given what I feel is a competitive price to do that from some other pricing we've gotten compared on that. The primary scope of this project has been completed. There's a couple areas on the Sanford Knob tank that we're still observing and working with the manufacturer to determine if there's some concern or further repair that's going to be needed, so we're not fully closing out the project yet. This change order also adjusts all of the other unit price bid form estimated quantities to reflect the actual quantities that were installed. So items that were not used or not fully used, they've been deducted out. So for the additional concrete work combined with those reductions, the net increase of this change order is $4,023.57, and it would add 20 calendar days to the contract time. The contractor has agreed to the change order and signed the form. We're in agreement if you all would like to proceed.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Moving on to H, approve purchase agreement with Safe Industries for an E1 Typhoon pumper. And let me hop over here. This is one of the items that we've discussed at our planning retreat. But this would place an order for an E1 pumper to be delivered in 2023-2024 budget year. So it's not part of this year's budget, but the contract must be signed to secure our pricing so that we can get this new pumper. And so the MOU for the new pumper is $699,700. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to I, approve supplement number 1 to railroad agreement with the state of Tennessee for the Stones River Road at CSX Roadway Improvement Project. And so we've discussed the other part of this earlier. Bids were opened for this and resulted in an increase from the original contract price by about $95,415. And this does not change the original contract price for us, so the price still for the city is $5,735.50 that we're paying. The remaining $95,415 will 100% be paid for by TDOT. So does anyone have any questions? Moving on to J, approve intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the City of Laverne for the I-24 Smart Corridor. TDOT is finishing up the first couple of phases with the Smart Corridor project. I know they've had a couple of recent meetings on it, but the next step of the process is to get an agreement in place for all parties that are involved in this to allow the implementation and successful integration of the integrated corridor management, and so the ICM. The city would basically agree to coordinate with TDOT and other local entities as needed to provide a common strategy for programming of systems to allow for the common set of parameters for the ICM strategy. And so this is, again, to coordinate traffic between I-24, Highway 41, Waldron Road, and all the way from Murfreesboro to Nashville. Does anyone have any questions?
A question, the legal, Mr. Cope, if you reviews this contract, does it look okay?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you.
And there are no fees associated with this agreement. Moving on to K, approved grant contract with the State of Tennessee, Tennessee Commission of Aging and Disability for a senior center competitive grant. The grant is basically $8,000, and it is to make improvements to the senior center. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to new business, Resolution 2022-23, a resolution to amend the employee handbook regarding military leave for training. This just amends the employee handbook regarding military leave so that the city's in compliance with the federal USERRA Act. Does anyone have any questions? Resolution 2022-24, resolution to authorize the city court to adjudicate juvenile traffic offenses. Our new juvenile court judge, Travis Lampley, had reached out to both the city attorney and myself about having the juvenile traffic offenses returned to the city of Laverne. Some of our other cities here in Rutherford County already do that. I will tell you, I personally had conversations with our court team. Judge Cartwright is fine with this coming back to the courts. They don't expect there to be a big increase in volume. This could impact revenues that come through. They would come to the city versus the county's juvenile court. So, does anyone have any questions?
So that keeps our police officers from traveling all the way to Murfreesboro?
For juvenile court, in that aspect of it, it'll be at the city, but the only thing that we're gonna have to come up with is when we have court for these juveniles, because court as it exists now is during school hours. So we have to work that out. But we love it, that we don't have to go up there.
Yeah. So whose job will that be to put together those dates and times? And
I would think the chief and the city court judge would.
Yeah, the date would probably, the dates for court would probably stay the same. In our court, I know the most recent one went to almost 4:45, which at that point, the high school, which is predominantly what we would be dealing with, would already be out and they would be able to attend. It's coordination. And so between city staff and our city court and the chief, it would all be coordinated if we decide to take this step.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Moving on to 10, motion to approve water operation and maintenance agreement with Inframark LLC. This is the agreement with Inframark to continue operating the water treatment plant. This renewal does have some changes to the structure of their agreement. Evan, do you want to speak to any of that, or Dwayne? Either one of y'all?
You know, Mayor, it'd be fine for Dwayne to do that. We had several versions of this contract go back and forth as we try to negotiate the terms. And so the agreement that you're going to have presented tonight is the product of several versions of this going back and forth.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Alderman. A couple changes on this. So the agreement is essentially the same with some minor revisions. So we changed the way we do our annual increase. So there's a change requesting that we first do a good faith negotiations. If the negotiations lead to nothing, then we are going to go to 2 different CPIs, picking the lowest one, but the idea was to match the CPI indexes that you're using with your Metro Nashville contract, so that we know those are remaining the same. Financially speaking, we've always had a base fee and a maintenance cap. It will now be a base fee, a chemical cap, and a maintenance cap. We are separating the chemicals out. That way there's a little bit more visibility to what we got going on and a little bit more understanding. We modified the way we do the cap. Previously, the maintenance cap was if we went over, it was you all pay what we went over plus 10%. We removed the 10%. So if we go over, we work with Kyle like, and Bruce like we always have, but it will be a straight, if we paid 1,000, you pay 1,000. So there'll be no markup. Similarly, same with the chemicals. If we go over, there's no markup, we just go over. And the conversation remained the same when we get close. We always tell them when we're at about 75% of the cap. In our monthly meeting, we talk through it, and sometimes we have to, we just call them ahead of time and just tell them this is what's going on. What it ended up doing for the whole term of the agreement is the cost went up $1.36 from what you're paying this year. So we were able to keep the fees flat because we were able to pull out the chemicals. That's the most volatile part of the water treatment process is the chemical costs. There's some changes on some labor language. There was still language in the contract that was dated back to 2007 when we first signed with y'all. So we removed that. And then per request of Kyle, we have a minimum number of employees that we will maintain at all time. So that way it's solid that what we're able, or what we're required to maintain. And I don't think I missed anything else. It's all mostly the same.
And just to touch back on those consumer price indexes, you're using the lower of the two, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Number 11, motion to approve a proposal for the Laverne Youth Baseball and Softball Leagues provider. This received a favorable recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee on September 19th, 2022. Andrew from Parks and Recreation, would you please come up?
Mayor,
Saw
Vice
that
Mayor, Alderman, thank you. This is just a motion to approve the RFP. We had 2 participants, Universal Sports League and Mid-South Ball League. The Universal Sports League did provide, get a favorable recommendation from the Parks Advisory Board on September the 19th. Their packet was more complete, so they did answer all of our questions that we had submitted in that RFP.
So both groups did not submit, at
Yes,
least one of them.
both submitted well, Universal Sports League submitted a full packet, Mid-South did not.
Okay.
Yeah, that packet kept me busy. It's very in-depth. Just so I understand now, if we vote on this Thursday night, and if it passes, then it has to come back next month.
We have the user agreement should come back
For the
before you all
user.
next, yes.
That
So
will be one
we'll
reading.
submit that to Bruce and Evan, and that will come back for you all to vote, and then the league can start operation.
So this vote Thursday is a one vote.
This is a one vote just to approve the proposal, so we can enter into a user agreement with them.
So, Andrew, just tell us a little bit about this group.
So Universal Sports League, they've been operating a basketball league probably 10 plus years here in Laverne. They have operated a volleyball league. They've already got a board established for their baseball and softball. It's mainly comprised of officials who've been in the baseball and softball leagues for 25 plus years here all throughout the state. So they're very reputable and they're ready to hit the ground running.
Based here in Laverne.
They are based here in Laverne, yes. and they're active in the community. We've had nothing but good reviews from parents that we spoke to that have had children participate, especially in their basketball league.
Steve, you were at the Parks and Recreation meeting. You're the chair. So any pertinent discussions occurring there that you want to share with us?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I was in a condo in Florida, but my co-chair, Ms. Carol Hawes, was there, but I was on the speaker and I did hear everything. And I guess I'd like to say that I personally appreciate the other group that came in.
Absolutely. I do know that some of that group has reached out to
That's
Universal
what I was
Sports
go-
League here that they want to work together,
They
so.
want to work together.
Good.
I really feel good about this baseball, softball thing. I'm looking forward to getting it started. I think it's going to be the beginning of something really big. I can honestly go on record and say that whenever this other last group came in, I was against it, but I was new. I didn't know much, but I'm looking forward to Julie and Derek and Rodney and all of them taking over. They know what they're doing. So I think it's going to be good. The meeting went well the other night. There was a lot of good questions asked, a lot of hard questions, which I like. But I do want to shout out to the other group that they did a great job presenting. They stepped up their game from the past group that just had it with a lot of non-communication. And according to this packet that I read through that took me, well, it was almost as bad as Bruce's emails. If anybody in here knows what I'm talking about, but it kept me busy, but it was very in-depth, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
and to be honest with you, the communication is greatly improved with this organization that I've spoken to so far than what we previously had.
Anyone have any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Number 12, motion to approve an energy equipment installation contract with Path Company LLC for the installation of LED streetlights. This was discussed several times, both at our planning retreat and we've had a meeting going through this whole packet. So we've got all the prices. I want to invite Mr. Franklin to come on up and just kind of walk us through some of the changes, pricing, and we can kind of go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Vice Mayor. Thank you, Board. Handle one of these out real quick. This will be pretty brief. The changes that the mayor is referencing are actually all not that much significant. And I'll explain to you where those come in here. I'll ask you two guys. The last one, is that okay? Thank you. So again, my name is William Franklin with Path Company. Thank you again for the time tonight. This packet that I have just put in front of you is actually identical outside of the date on the front and the information in the far back to the one that we reviewed previously, where we had talked all about the various options that we had put together for you guys. You guys gave us some feedback about which options you'd like to see included in the project, et cetera. So as you remember, this project and the results of this study are the results of months and months worth of work. And we are finally ready to come to you guys with a final price and a final amount of calculated savings as it relates to this project. So everything about this project has remained the same from a cost standpoint. If you look at the last slide, however, the mayor specifically asked that I address some of the changes. So if you think about it, everything in the world price-wise is changing right now, and equipment-wise it's changing right now. To be very clear, both the cost and the savings of this project changed since we last spoke. We, however, at Path did not at all believe that passing along any sort of price increases to you guys was fair, and so we held firm on our price. The savings, however, did change, and mind you, the savings are not things that we're directly in control of, right? Those are billable savings. The savings, the gross total savings actually decreased. They were $160,895. Now it's $159,726. So unfortunately, they dropped by about $1,000 a year. that is the extent of the changes since we last spoke. Total project cost remains the same. Total contract price, obviously, to Path remains the same. The buyout amounts to the utilities have remained the same. The savings amount simply changed. It did unfortunately drop by about $1,000.
Okay, and to put some numbers with this, the total project cost is about $2.3 million, and the projected return on investment is estimated at $4.29 million over the next 20 years.
That's great.
So, does anyone have any questions?
If we were to move forward, how long would it take to implement this plan?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. It's one I wish I knew the exact answer of. So what we're looking at right now is about 10 to 12 weeks worth of procurement. I actually think we'll come in on the low end. We're starting to see those lead times start to get compressed a little bit, which is good. We'll take about 2 or 3 weeks to stage things, and then I'm guessing, don't hold me to this right now, I'm guessing it'll be about a 2-month install window. You'll see about 80% of them go up significantly quicker than that 2-month, but you imagine there's a lot of punch list items that occur. And so I think from the day we put the first light up until the day that our punch list is complete, I'm going to aim for 2 months at this point in time.
And what happens with the old lights and fixtures?
Yeah, we recycle them. So, and frankly, the recycling costs really just cover the cost of disposal. So we have to obviously bring tons of dumpsters in. We have to pay somebody to split them up. You can't just throw the whole fixture in the garbage or in a landfill. So we have to take them apart and then we recycle various components of them. We get a little bit of money from that. It really just pays for the dumpsters. Yeah, it's a good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You'll have to excuse my short-term memory. I don't remember you being here. I remember them gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
But one of the questions you all may or may not remember, I didn't want that to sound like a Shark Tank pitch to us.
Sure.
So I asked them about Path and how long they'd been in business and all that. But after the meetings, I went farther. I have some really good friends high up in NES and MTMEC. Is that right?
MTEMC.
Anyway,
Yep.
I was able to speak with the people that deal directly with you guys, directly. And on a scale from 1 to 10, they gave me about a 9.7 on you. So that kind of helped me make up my mind what I'd like to do, because I wasn't so much concerned about NES, but I was more concerned about your company and how long you'd been around and the kind of work you did and so on and so forth. And there was a few hiccups that's with every company.
Sure.
So as far as a company that wants, as far as Path goes, I did do my due diligence and dig into their background.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and Chris Jones had good things to say about y'all as well with Middle Tennessee Electric. I spoke with him at the Wings of Freedom Fish Fry. So it was they had good things to say about y'all.
Wonderful. And if I may, I mean, I'll pass a compliment back along to both of those entities, because I think sometimes when we come in and we do these projects, the utility companies immediately, in some people's eyes, almost get a black eye, like, well, hold on, why did it take these guys coming in to make this project that saves us money? Both of those utilities were critical partners in developing this for you guys, and they were adamant from the beginning that the value of savings be maximized to you. And so I at least want it to be known to you guys that they were active participants in this, and I hope that you'll get a chance to thank them for all their efforts in developing this.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about dark spots for sure. Even Chief Davis talked a little bit about the safety, helping his guys, and so, and I know it costs money. What doesn't? So I'm looking forward. I hope we can pass this. I know I'll be voting for it. So I hope we can get started with it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right.
The next two items are both tied to this. So we've got the number 13, motion to approve a street lighting agreement with Path Company and Middle Tennessee Electric Corporation for the installation of LED street lights. And then we've got the same thing, but with NES. These are essentially dealing with the undepreciated costs associated with this. Of course, NESs will be higher just because they have a larger portion of the city than anywhere else. Is there any questions about either one of those? They're kind of, these 12, 13, and 14 are all kind of linked together. Moving on to 15, first reading ordinance 2022-23, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 general fund budget. And really 15 is tied right along with this. This is an ordinance to appropriate the funding for the LED streetlight project. So these are all linked together. Does anyone have any questions? And then number 16, motion to approve bid for Fire Station 41. And I know we discussed this last month. Keaton, can you come on up and talk to the board, please? Keaton is filling in for John Trail, just so that everyone's familiar.
Good evening. I'm Keaton Pettit with Johnson and Bailey Architects. I'm one of John's business partners there. And I'm just going to update where we are with the process. On August 31st at 2 p.m., we conducted a bid opening for Fire Station number 41 and the regional stormwater drainage area project. And the low apparent bidder at the conclusion of that bid opening was Fellowship Construction with a low base bid of $9,735,578. Shortly after the bid opening, a representative from Fellowship Construction realized that they had made a mistake in their bid, and they had left out the 10% contingency allowance that was to be included in the bid. And they notified the architect and the owner, and that evening at 5:18, Jamie Irwin with Fellowship Construction sent an email with a letter to Mr. Richardson. And if it's all right, I might just read that letter. It's pretty brief. Mr. Irwin said, "Dear Mr. Richardson, there was a computer accounting error in our bid, and we did not include the contingency allowance, which was to be a 10% addition to our bid in the amount of," and he wrote $930,000. I think that was a typo. He meant to say 9.3 million. "We feel it is in the best interest of the owner to withdraw our bid. We would not be able to perform the work with this kind of accounting deficit. In view of our error involved, we hereby respectfully request permission to withdraw our bid from consideration. Thanks, Jimmy Irwin, Jr." He's Vice President of Fellowship Construction. Per the construction documents for this project, in the instructions to bidders, there is a subsection under bidding procedures about modification or withdrawal of bids. It allows for withdrawal of bid up to the time of the bid opening, but not afterwards. But there is a provision that reads, "After the date and time designated for receipt of bids, a bidder who discovers that it made a clerical error in its bid shall notify the architect of such error within 2 days, or pursuant to a timeframe specified by the law of the jurisdiction where the project is located, requesting withdrawal of its bid." Mr. Irwin did submit that letter within 2 days, the letter that I just read. "Upon providing evidence of such error to the reasonable satisfaction of the architect, the bid shall be withdrawn and not resubmitted." We've reviewed, he submitted additional documentation, including a schedule of values for the entire project, and it clearly left out the 10% contingency allowance. We would consider this satisfactory evidence that he made a mistake. Further, in this section of the instructions to bidders, it says, "If a bid is withdrawn pursuant to this section 4.4.3, the bid security will be attended to as follows. Bid security will be forfeited to the owner." So, with that being said, I know there has been lots of discussion, but we would consider the first action to consider that request for withdrawal, which would result in the forfeiture of his bid bond which is 5% of the bid, as specified in the construction documents. So we would recommend consideration of his original request for withdrawal, which would result in the bid bond forfeiture. And we would recommend going to the next lowest responsive bidder, which was Romac Inc. And I will briefly go over what their bid was. Their base bid for both the new fire station and the regional stormwater drainage area was $11,129,300. And the fire department has indicated that they would like to include alternates 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 for the projects, which, including those alternates, the bid from Romac, the next lowest bid, which is from Romac, would be $11,512,100. And I'm happy to answer any further questions. This is, I will say, this is new territory for us. We've hard bid hundreds and hundreds of jobs over the last 30 to 40 years. And this is the first time we've actually had a withdrawal request from a contractor. So it's new territory for us, but we're here to help and assist in any way we can moving forward.
Okay. Can you tell us how much that bid bond amount or that bid security amount is that you mentioned?
It is 5%. It is 5% of the bid amount, the base bid amount.
Bruce, Kyle, do we have that number?
No, it's in the neighborhood of 485,000. I don't have the exact number. I think Bruce is calculating it right now.
It is $486,778.90.
Okay, so it more than covers the options then that's been discussed for the fire department for 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 as well. So to make sure I'm understanding the process, you're saying that we would need to accept their withdrawal, which would go ahead and trigger the bid security or bid bond.
Yes.
And then we would need to then accept the next lowest bidder. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Bruce, Evan, do we need to split this as 2 items on the agenda then to make sure that this is handled appropriately, or does that just all need to be one motion?
Mayor, I think you could do that in one motion, based on what I understand the comment to be.
Okay.
If I understand the comment, that the very act of the city accepting the withdrawal triggers the surety's obligation to pay the bond, is that correct?
That's the way I read the documents. Again, I'm not a construction attorney, so it may be worthwhile consulting someone familiar with construction law. And again, this is new territory for us, but the way that I read the contract, it does say that accepting that withdrawal would trigger the
Well,
forfeiture.
that's what we're relying on you guys to do, and
Yes.
we've been talking about this for over a month now. So if there's something else the city needs to do in order to secure the bond, that's what we need to hear from y'all. I've read the bond, and we had a conversation about that, and that's what we asked you to comment on.
And as far as the next steps in that process, the city would have to submit a claim to the surety for the bond, and then that would trigger their process of fulfilling the obligations of that bond. Again, that process they'll have a investigation into it to determine if it's a valid claim, and then they would take next steps with the city to fulfill the obligation.
Okay. Evan, is that something you would file for to them?
No, my understanding is that the architect, that you would provide notice to the surety on behalf of the city, since you're handling this for the city. Is that not correct?
Well, we will assist the process, but as you are the owner for the project, it would need to come from the owner, because you are, on the surety, you're the, I can't think of the correct term at the moment, but the surety is for the city. It's not to Johnson Bailey Architects, so.
No, I understand, but go ahead.
We could assist in drafting that letter for that claim.
Okay, well, we would just rely on you to prepare what needs to be in order to trigger the bond, since it's an AIA bond form that you guys prepared and used. Is that correct?
Well, we require that the bid bond is submitted on an AIA document, but it is prepared by the contractor and his surety.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions?
So, I remember this discussion from last month. This Romac, is that somebody that you all have worked with before and done business with?
Yes, sir. I personally have worked with
Because,
them.
you know, we've been down this ugly road about the cheapest is not the best.
That's right.
God knows we have. But,
Well, I can speak with personal experience. I have worked on millions of dollars of projects with Romac, and all have been successful projects, and I would recommend working with Romac.
Looking at the contract, Romac appear to be using similar subcontractors. Would
Yes,
that
sir.
be correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have the bond company that for Romac? Have you dealt with those people before, and are they a reputable company?
The bond company?
Correct.
The bonding company is actually the same one as the low bidder fellowship. It's Westfield. They show up almost every time, and we have again worked with Romac, and they've used that bonding agency.
Do they have
on the
offices
project.
in Tennessee?
I don't believe their offices are in Tennessee. But we have successfully, Romac has bid several projects successfully, came in as low bidder. They got all of their bonds in no time, no problem, for the performance payment and labor materials bonds.
Any other questions?
It's kind of unfortunate that this has happened, to delay the start of that project. Due to what's happening in Florida with the hurricane, it's gonna probably up the cost of material. It's really unfortunate, just like the Stone River Road project, you know. It's just an unfortunate deal
Yeah.
with what's happening, because gas has already went up 20 cents since in the last few days.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, and we hate it, that, one mistake is, we have successfully worked with Fellowship Construction as well in the past, so, it's unfortunate that this happened.
Any other questions?
I always turn to Carl, because he's been around and he works with people all the time. You had any dealings with Romac, or?
I've not, but John and Keaton both have spoke highly of them. They've worked with them on several projects, and when we, of course, we bid out to a Public Works facility, and Romac was brought up on that. I believe they would have bid on that project if this situation wasn't going on, because they can't do both. They don't have enough to do both, so they figured that this was going to happen, so they're going to focus on this one. And the Lamb Associates also spoke highly of Romac and had worked with them several projects, so I feel like it's a good company.
So if this passes, what's the next? I'm just trying to get some kind of ETA.
Well, the next steps would be, of course, the bid bond portion would happen, and we would submit a contract with Romac. They would either accept or reject it. If they accept it, then they would start moving forward with the project to start building. So you're looking at basically from where we were a month, at least an additional month or two added on to it.
And I would say we need to definitely make a decision before this bid runs out as far as the time frame that they're good for, because if it expires, then we're going to have to rebid this back out. And as you see from the Public Works
Exactly,
facility,
that's what I'm getting at.
that's not going to be a positive.
Any other questions? Thank you. Moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
We'll do this short and sweet tonight, because I've had a lot of dental work. But keep our prayers for the people in Florida. They've been hit hard with a hurricane. As you've seen on television, it's a whole lot worse than what they were expecting. And keep our prayers for them. Make sure your pets have ample water and shade. And check on the elderly. Make sure you check on the elderly. And that's all I'm gonna say tonight.
Thank you, sir. Alderwoman Honeycutt.
As always, I just want to thank our fire, police, and our city employees for all their hard work and dedication to the city, and also to keep everyone in Florida that was affected by the hurricanes in our prayers and thoughts.
Thank you. Alderman Coates.
Come on out to National Night Out. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Vice Mayor No.
Exactly. National Night Out Tuesday night. Looking forward to that. Talked to Cherie Robinson before the meeting, and she's got stuff lined up. Unfortunately, the only cook we could find is Doug back there, so. And Old Timers Day was awesome, guys. I mean, anybody that was there, Park and Rec knocked it out of the park. Donna, Inframark, your guys handing out all those drinks and everything. The city, Bruce came out, and Andrew, everybody, we had a great time, so it was awesome. Weather was perfect. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I want to ask everyone to definitely keep everyone in Florida that's affected from the hurricane in your prayers. They're going to need a lot of help and resources, so if you can, please step up and do so. National Night Out is Tuesday, October 4th. Doug will be on the grill, grilling up a whole bunch of hot dogs for people that are free. That is a magical word we all like. So feel free to come and get some hot dogs. And I understand that flight will be there. And so should be beautiful weather. Should be a great time. So be sure to come by and say hello. With that, call this meeting adjourned.